Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be checking out Overly Sarcastic Productions' Halloween special for H.P. Lovecraft. Now, I haven't checked out any of their work before. This is the very first time after it won the poll to see what to check out next, and I got no idea what we're getting into here. I know a little bit about H.P. Lovecraft, though, and considering we're just coming off Maxor and his level of insanity, I figured, why not go for something else that's mind-bendingly crazy? Lovecraft. While I don't respect him as a person, except for near the end of his life where he kind of unfucked his head, yeah, his writing does stand up. Other than the fact that I'm a coward and this literally scares the shit out of me. Why am I doing this? I don't have a good answer for that. We're going to do it anyways. Maybe I am a little insane if you're going through all those Maxor videos. So you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. I don't know what I'm getting into here. I haven't watched this channel before, but it's been heavily recommended. When I even put it up as a poll for something to watch, people really wanted me to check this out. So I'll do something intelligent and listen to random strangers on the internet giving advice. I'm sure that will never backfire at all. Oh no. Again, link below, original video. Hit it up. Let's get started.
It would be inaccurate to describe Howard Phillips Lovecraft as a man with issues.
That's what the first name?
It's more like he was a...
Wait, seriously, his first name was Howard Phillips? Makes sense, but honestly, I was expecting something more crazy, like Hugo for Fasavapa. Something just weird that you don't actually want to use it. Just Howard Phillips. Sorry, I should have looked this up. I actually had no idea that's what this stood for. It's kind of surprising to me.
bundle of issues shambling around in a roughly bipedal approximation of a man. Chronically depressed, hypersensitive to criticism, almost certainly agoraphobic, prone to horrible nightmares and nervous breakdowns, and thoroughly racist even by the standards of the time,
Yeah, honestly, up until that last part, and considering his time frame being more than the time, there's a reason he's problematic as a person. Other than that, though, he sounds like a general typical writer. I know what I said.
It'd be easy to come to the conclusion that H.P. Lovecraft was simply afraid of everything. But this isn't true either. He was just afraid of everything that wasn't his hometown of Providence, Rhode Island. Lovecraft is...
Which, honestly, in its own right, if you've been to Providence, Rhode Island... I might be biased because I have family in Boston and Philly, but they don't talk about Providence. Granted, the people who live there also don't talk about Providence. In fact, it actually explains a lot when you really think about it.
Is famous for codifying the Lovecraftian horror mythos, a cosmology he created with centralized themes of cosmic horror, ancient, unknowable, and malevolent gods, and everything smelling vaguely of fish. Lovecraft's writing is famous these days for producing an overwhelming sense of sheer hopeless terror at an unfeeling cosmos, wrapped up in visceral descriptions of omnipresent rot and decay, all themes that manage to make perfect sense when contextualized with Lovecraft's life story, which was pretty much a depressing downward spiral from minute one. Lovecraft was born in 1890.
Oh, they're actually going through his entire backstory? See, this is the thing. I know a little bit about how he kind of went asshole-ish, let's go with that. And I didn't really care to read more until I was like, oh yeah, apparently he wasn't nearly as bad at the end. Although at the end he was also dead, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Again, problematic author, but their work holds up. As long as you don't look into the author. I don't actually know anything about his past, though. Core ain't we posh. Huh? I'm going to assume that's a word I just don't recognize.
To one of those well-off New England families that still thought of themselves as proper English semi-nobility, an image that became harder and harder to maintain due to their perpetual state of financial decline. Lovecraft was intermittently schooled but never really finished his education, and had access to a decent library with pretty nifty scientific texts, but had too delicate of a constitution for math, and as such made no progress.
What? Okay, I'm not the only one thinking this. When she says that, she's pulling up, what was that? That one little clip right here. What was it? Yeah.
Pretty nifty scientific texts, but had too delicate of a constitution for math.
See, I'm not the only one going, what the hell? Are they reading off his actual biography? Or is that actually what they... This is one of those things I don't want to Google because I know there's a rabbit hole there. And honestly, I lose way too much time wiki walking if I even risk it. It's not a problem. It's an obsession. I really should stop. What the hell? If someone can explain it to the comments where I don't get a link to Wikipedia, thank you. Seriously, the last person that did a Wikipedia link, I did not sleep that night. It was just one link to the other link. I might have a problem, but it's fine. I can stop wiki walking whenever I want. I don't have a page open on my cell phone constantly, and it's not tempting me to pause the video sometimes just to read a bit of it. I've never done that. Moving on. What?
And as such made no progress
Too rich
beyond
for
the
my
basics in any
blood?
of his fields of scientific study, which explains his thorough misunderstanding of non-Euclidean geometry, non-visible light, and the concept of an air conditioner. His mother was institutionalized.
Okay, I can get non-Euclidean geometry. I can get non-visible light, even though technically that's just basic radiation outside of the spectrum we see. But an air conditioner? I mean, to be fair, most people don't have the slightest clue how an air conditioner works. But that's mostly because no one bothers to think about it. Even I have only a basic understanding, and that's just because someone I know worked as an air conditioning tech, and they told me once. I forgot half of it, so I have half an understanding. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Wait, 1918. Aye! Probably that pesky... What the fuck? Starts hallucinating monsters in the shadows and has put... Oh, because this is during the time where they would do that to people.
In 1918, but unfortunately we have no idea what was actually wrong with her because
Probably
the
just
medicine of the time
schizophrenia.
had a
That's what it
tendency to
usually does it.
exclusively diagnose women with hysteria, aka being a woman disease. When she died in 1921, Lovecraft
Oh yeah, hysteria was literally just, well, we don't know what's going on, we don't want to deal with you, so you're gonna go into asylum. To be fair, it's literally just a lot of untreated schizophrenia a lot of the time. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, just because people are assholes. But for the people who actually worse, like, it's just basically untreated schizophrenia and other things various to that nature. Seriously, there's a lot of paranoid schizophrenic out there. Kind of sucks because the treatments aren't... The ones that work are not good. They're kind of brutal sometimes. The ones that don't... Yeah.
took it really hard, got
Whoa.
severely depressed, and started writing The Call of Cthulhu, one of the first stories
Seriously?
that brought themes of existential horror into his developing mythos. Lovecraft's lack of marketable skill
Wait, he was born in the 90s, and he wrote it... So he was... Okay, he was roughly 30s. He wasn't a kid when this happened, but that's still a good bit of time to start writing it then. Oh, Miss Lovecraft dies. Oh, I missed that part about dies. I was distracted by literally the Shadow of Cthulhu drawing back there. Huh.
Cthulhu, one of the
Like
first
what,
stories
30,
that
40
brought
years
themes
old?
of existential horror into his developing mythos. Lovecraft's lack of marketable skills stopped being much of a problem for him when he married a breadwinner businesswoman in 1924, and moved into his wife's apartment in Brooklyn, which he hated more than anything.
I'm sorry. The fuck? So he married a rich woman because useless guys with depression were a thing people actually wanted to marry early on? I mean, if he had already written it and was a famous author, I could see that, but he doesn't have a job, didn't seem respectable. It was just... How? No, I'm not even joking. You have no idea how tempting it is to go to Wikipedia right now. Like, what happened for this to be a thing? It was like, I'm a very well-to-do woman with a business and can make money. I can completely take care of him. I want to choose this guy. Why? I mean, I know there's no accounting for taste, but I'd assume there was actually taste.
In large part because New York is one of those places where immigrants happen. Oh yeah, the racism. So Lovecraft's proper New England breeding was a major source of pride.
I forgot about the racism. You know, it's always easy to do that. My superior blood sets me above the common... Really? You know, that does explain the entire former aristocracy is trying to pretend... And suddenly I get how... Yeah, it's someone who tries to present themselves as a blue blood fancy aristocrat. Yes. They probably unironically lift the finger for tea. I do it because I think it's funny, also because the cups are really freaking small and they just, like, 3 of the fingers don't fit. It's very annoying. Like, see? Yeah. Really annoying.
Pride for him, and
I mean, again,
basically
they're really
all of his
cramped at that
stories
point.
have seriously classist and racist themes, with his
Yeah.
heroes being well-educated white dudes with no phonetically transcribed accents, and his villains being literally everybody else. This being good old English racism,
yeah.
he cared less about skin color directly and more about breeding overall, so there's a number of white people bad guys too, albeit uneducated, inbred, and poor, but it's no accident a lot of his horror
Are those gators? Oh, Shadows of Innsmouth. That, yeah. No, it looks more up to date. Must be a new version of it. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, he's Yeah, piece of
Horror
work.
is derived from people crossbreeding with other races. Part of this might have been Lovecraft's clear and obvious discomfort and
that was the
disinterest
thing,
with all
wasn't
things
it?
sexual, but there's also a bunch of racism wrapped up in there. Lovecraft eventually got overwhelmed by the horror of the outside world and moved back home to Providence, lived on a dwindling inheritance for the rest of his life, and died almost completely unknown from intestinal cancer at age 46. Overall, an unpleasant life steeped in mundane misery and crippled by fear at every turn. With the
How the hell did he become famous then? I assumed that he published something, but... Again, learning he was kind of a horrible person, I stopped looking into him. This is a lot of things I didn't know, but he's basically getting... You know, now I'm thinking about it, there's a bunch of people I can remember who actually had this very same thing happen to them. They only became famous after their death, and they had a lot of writing. I'm assuming a family member and or a person rummaging through their estate found it and just decided to publish it for money. Most likely.
context of Lovecraft's overwhelming disgust and horror for everything he didn't understand, almost his entire body of work begins to make sense. The thing that makes Lovecraftian...
Well, that's one hell of an image. And yeah, I guess... You know, a lot of the mythos does make a lot of sense. It really... In context, what she's saying actually does make a lot of sense. To an almost disturbing degree, it's like, yeah, I'm afraid of everything because I'm basically afraid of life. Change, air, anything that's not me that I'm used to, because I'm also very stupid. Because math was too hard for his constitution. I can get not understanding it. I'm an English major, was an English major, whatever. I get not understanding math. But it's not my constitution, it's because I'm an idiot. The Constitution's because he was rich nobility and they can't possibly admit that they had issues. Yeah, we can't have a tutor. We can't admit you don't understand it the first try. It's because it's scary and wrong, not because it's you. Yes. This actually does make a lot more sense. Huh.
horror, and the thing that's kept it popular is this overwhelming fear of the unknown, a concept that easily translates even as the unknown changes with social and scientific developments. Even though Lovecraft's works haven't aged well at all, the underlying principle is sound. If you don't fully understand something, you can interpolate existential horror and turn every mystery into a nightmare of things man was not meant to know.
Wait, go back a second. That's actually a really good bookmark on here. Subject is not fully understood. Fill in the gaps with horror! Write a story and gradually revealing that horror. Instant Lovecraft. Huh. You know what? If you didn't know what fish farms were, you would just think that they have a bunch of meat swimming in water that's just grown for the purpose of consumption. You just find at the end of it slabs of dead, smelly... Well, I mean, we wouldn't know as fish. Yeah, I can actually see if you just take out the idea of what fish is from a fish farm, it would look really kind of effed up. And that's very basic and honestly not the worst thing I can imagine. Yeah, just taking out a little understanding does make things creepier. Then you get into actual crazy stuff.
No, and separate from that, the aesthetic of horror he chose is also pretty effective on its own. Lovecraft's overwhelming fear of the ocean produced a memorable and viscerally nasty horror aesthetic grounded in slime and rot that was...
Okay, real talk for a second. He was afraid of everything but Providence, Rhode Island. That's on the ocean. I'm pretty sure it's on the ocean. That's like the biggest part of where he lives, and he decided to return to someplace that is fundamentally based on what he's scared of? Crazy people don't make sense. I need to remember that.
Far removed from the cold stone sterility of the previous Gothic horror genre. So, all that in mind, let's take a look at a few of the genre-defining short stories
Gothic
cranked
was
out
very
from
much
horrible
just the
phobias
monster.
Lovecraft's darkest nightmares.
We're actually going into it.
The Call of
Phobias.
Cthulhu is
Oh, no,
framed-
don't you just drop that in there. Alright, what do we got? Okay, the thing is not working.
From horrible phobias Lovecraft's darkest nightmares.
And here we go. Oh, now it's letting me go forward a single step. The Call of Cthulhu, the one he wrote when his mom died. And this was the ocean, non-Euclidean geometry, not white people. Yeah, because he's a racist. You know, it's a lot easier to respect this guy the less you know about him. The more you do, you're more like... I wonder if there's like an annual pissing on his grave contest or something.
The Call of Cthulhu is framed as a first-person account from one Francis Wayland Thurston,
Main
whose
character,
venture into the unknown begins as he's going through the notes left by his great-uncle George Angel, a professor at Brown who recently died under mysterious circumstances. The notes describe a series of interactions between Angel and one Henry Anthony Wilcox, an artist and known airhead who's recently taken to dreaming of ancient sunken cities. An earthquake hit New...
Wait, what did that say? So this is great. Oh, this is probably set in the 1800s then. George Angel, your name is heroic enough. I assume I can trust you? I want to say that's probably bullshit. But considering when you get into this time frame, and even sometimes now, that kind of leap of logic that's absolutely stupid is something people still make. So yeah, world's sanest professor. That's not foreshadowing at all.
Cities. An earthquake hit New England on February 28th, and that night, Henry had this crazy dream that he was navigating an ancient, creepy city covered in green ooze and hieroglyphs, and from the depths of the structure echoed a very spooky voice saying something about Cthulhu in a language he didn't understand. Angel is disproportionately concerned about this dream, and asks if Henry is, by any chance, part of a cult. But Henry's just your average clean-cut New England artist dreaming of things beyond mortal ken. He comes in...
Wait, what did he say? The hell is that cutesy Cthulhu? That is cutesy Cthulhu. Okay, that is a thing. Why did you say that name? Not so loud, Professor. I got 0 sleep. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, world says Professor.
He comes in daily with new dreams, all in the same city, but sometimes different parts of it, and with the same spooky voice saying spooky stuff, until one day, March 23rd, when he doesn't come in at all. Because, as it turns out, Henry's become very sick and has been deliriously...
The horror. The extremely marketable horror. Oh no, not profit. Oh my god, I don't even... I'm sorry, I think this is what... You know, considering they're called overly sarcastic productions, I think I'm gonna love this, just because if this is what they insert.
Yelling about some giant monster. 9 days later, Henry...
Oh hey, Professor, I feel a lot better now. That's just how it always goes. Everyone just suddenly gets better.
Abruptly gets better and stops having the dreams entirely. Angel launches an investigation.
Do you suffer from nightmares, insomnia, screaming hallucinations, of shambling terrors far beyond the comprehension of us ephemeral mortals? We want to know, is that an actual number? It probably is an actual number. Well, I'm not going to read that out loud. Wow.
Polling a large population for reports of what their dreams were like during the interval when Henry was all wonky. He discovers that salt-of-the-earth working-class folk were totally unaffected, sciencey types had the occasional nightmare, and artists and poets were almost incapacitated by their crazy nightmares.
Whoa, go back a second there. That is really cool tattoo work, actually. God damn. And they put in a really fine line on there with a lot of detail. They really went all out on her tattoos. Nice. Also, of course, the guy who's afraid of everything is most afraid of the people who might be able to imagine things. So he's the one that he gives them the nightmares. That actually makes a lot of sense still. Again, with context, yeah, people who understand things are probably scaring him too. Why is he writing a lot of smart people as his heroes when he would probably be more afraid of them because they aren't afraid of things that he is? Huh.
Nightmares. Many of them dreamt of the same city as Henry, along with the same ominous chanting he reported. Overall, the interval between February 28th and April 2nd saw a worldwide spike in madness, mania, and general unrest. That's pretty spooky all on its own, but it turns out Angel had asked...
March 22nd. Huh. Well, it's a good thing nothing in the 20s, number-wise, have ever come up as a spike of bad shit. Ha ha ha! This was written in the 20s as well. 1920s, but it technically counts.
Henry about cult activity for a reason. This wasn't his first run-in with the name Cthulhu.
Oh?
17 years prior, in 1908, Angel is attending an
and in conclusion, the world must never know that, for ritual purposes, is code for we have no idea what this is. Hear, hear. I mean, technically, that is perfectly accurate. When you just leave things down to tradition, it's because you don't understand them. You just do them because it's been done already. That's literally a point of actually quite a lot of different fiction.
Academic archaeological get-together when hard-boiled New Orleans cop Inspector Legrand...
Wait, a cop? Hey, sorry to intrude Oh, that's a B, not an O. But this seems like the right crowd to figure this out.
Crashes the party with an ancient and creepy statuette they recently confiscated from a particularly nasty cult, and they need to know what it means. The statuette looks like a weird half-human, half-octopus, half-dragon thing. The archaeologists pass it around, but nobody can...
Ritual purposes? We already knew that. And they're just making the joke about ritual purposes means we have no idea what it's for, and they're already using the term again.
Identify the culture of origin, and nobody can read the glyphs. The one dude claims he's dealt with a tribe of devil worshippers who seem to have worshipped a similar figure. When asked where the heck he got this statue, Legrasse explains they'd gotten some reports from some friendly swamp-dwelling New Orleansers that some seriously freaky stuff was happening in the swamp, and their women and children kept getting...
Just to be fair, that actually I think is just Cajun culture, and I honestly was a little surprised he even knows about that. Huh.
getting kidnapped. The cops crashed the party and found a large
Whoa.
number of very naked cultists dancing around a burning monolith.
That's
with
a lot of dead
statue
bodies.
on top, surrounded by the extremely dead bodies of all those kidnapped swamp people. Oh, but don't worry, circa 1920s New England readers. I know you want to know the exact ethnic backgrounds and skin color of these cultists before you render moral judgment. Well, don't you worry, Lovecraft has you covered. We've got some Native Americans, some black people, some biracial people, some ethnically ambiguous folk thrown in for flavor, and basically everybody who's definitely not a white people. I won't say Lovecraft got
Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised. Again, the more you get into it, the more you're like, yeah, this is. Oh, yeah, I forgot, asshole. It really does take everything down a peg.
subtler about his deep, abiding loathing and terror of anyone with a skin tone darker than Pantone 727, but this is probably the most all-inclusive it ever gets in his writing. Anyway,
paper?
Lovecraft's charmingly diverse death cult explains that they worship the Great Old Ones, ancient gods who predate humanity and are currently dead, but still dreaming, and through their dreams can communicate with humanity, which is how they facilitated the formation of this ancient globe-spanning cult in the first place.
Okay, wow, that is really cool art. Pretty sure that's Nyarlathotep, Azuth. I can't be sure. Maybe Bol? Or maybe that's Yog-Sothoth. Honestly, there's so many interpretations here. This is, again, I like the mythos. I hate the guy who made it. It's like I want to know this. I want to get excited, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, by the way, he's still an asshole. This makes the video very hard.
The old ones are currently all preserved in the ancient city of R'lyeh, which sunk
Wait,
in the
all of
ocean
them?
a while back, which makes it harder for them to psychically bump up with humanity. Cthulhu is the name of one of the old ones, specifically the one playing nanny to all the others while they're dead and waiting for the stars to align so they can come back. So our narrator Francis understands why
This
Angel
sounds
is
like
so
a
freaked
elaborate
out hearing
hoax.
the name Cthulhu 17 years after dealing with the murder cult, but is pretty sure this must have been some kind of practical joke, and decides to start investigating on his own. Also, he begins to suspect Angel might have been killed by the cult, because shortly before he died,
But that racial paranoia is pretty compelling. Oof, boop. Yeah, because he's an asshole.
he bumped into a black guy. I can't stress enough
Seriously?
how hard it is to read this today. After retracing Angel's
Wait, that's actually the reason he assumed murder? This is why I can't bring myself to read the original stuff and just work on the later works using it because it's technically in free or Creative Commons or something like that. I don't even... Oh, Jesus. Really? Of course it is.
contacts to try and flesh out the story, he finds a newspaper article dated to the same time frame as Henry's Crazy Dreams that talks about a derelict ship found adrift at sea with a single survivor on board, a man named Johansson, who you know you can trust because he's Norwegian, aka very, very white. According to the article, Johansson claimed the ship had been attacked by a yacht full
Ah! Wrong button! Oops.
of an island that didn't
Honestly, though, like... Isn't Norway like where the Vikings lived and weren't they literally everywhere? What am I thinking?
but they managed to kill all of them, board the yacht, and claim the know you can trust because he's Norwegian.
Wait, what was that about boarding a yacht?
Very white. According to the article, Johansson claimed the ship had been attacked by a yacht full of suspicious not white people, but they managed to kill all of them, board the yacht, and sailed along its original course, whereupon they landed on an island that didn't appear on any map. 6 of the crew members somehow died, and Johansson and 1 other made it back to the boat, at which point the other one died too. Francis bounces around the globe a bit trying to locate this
Fantastic. My husband told me not to read these before he... I'm assuming read them and died? Yeah.
Johansson, who he finds tragically died quite recently, but conveniently left a whole lot of notes for him to sift through. Hooray! So the notes are basically just Johansson's horrified recollection of his harrowing ordeal, which fills in what the newspaper left out. The ship lands on an island that shouldn't exist.
And of course, they're even highlighting his hair in yellow so you know who he's talking about. But also going with the, see, I'm the bright person. God, the racism is overwhelmingly stupid. I just,
Surprise, surprise, the topmost part of R'lyeh, and as they explore, the sailors note that the
they
island is
actually made
extremely
R'lyeh.
spooky because all of its architecture is non-Euclidean. For those of you with a Lovecraftian level geometry education, non-Euclidean geometry is just geometry on a curved surface. You may note, since we live on a globe, all of our geometry is non-Euclidean. Anyway, the
honestly, I never took geometry because I never got that far in math. I didn't know that. That said, unlike him, I never bothered to learn because I didn't care. Lovecraft tried and failed. That is... I'm not sure if that's making it worse or better. I really don't know. It's very, very embarrassing either way.
island's terrifying geometry notwithstanding, the sailors soldier on until they encounter a very big door. Following, I guess, video game logic, the sailors agree that opening this very big door sounds like a fun idea, and...
Wait, does that mean every time they describe non-Euclidean geometry, They're just talking about flat lines. So whenever they talk about Euclidean geometry, no, non-Euclidean is the round one. So literally just talking about they have a lot of rounded surfaces. That means they have the generic fantasy sci-fi look is what he's unironically describing of all future tech they drew in like the 60s. Where everything's bulbous and Oh god, he actually did just describe, unironically and without understanding it, basic futurism styles of very round, bulbous buildings that just happen to have curves for some reason. Yeah. I can't tell that's forward thinking or just accidentally stupid. It's accidentally stupid that happened to accidentally cross into forward thinking.
And surprise, surprise, Cthulhu comes out. Way to do the cops' job for him, geniuses. So 2 of the sailors die of fright, 1 trips on a corner and clips through the map, and 3 of them get squished. Johansson and 1 other guy exit pursued by Cthulhu, and once in the boat, Johansson, brave Snow White Norwegian that he is, turns the boat around and rams the pursuing Cthulhu right in his big jelly face. It smells awful, there's jelly everywhere, but as the boat retreats, Cthulhu is seen pulling himself back together. Because if you could kill an elder god the same way you kill a rampaging Disney villain, most of Lovecraft's stories would have very different tones.
Wait, there was a Disney villain killed by a boat? I thought that was just relegated to parents only.
Anyway, Johansson's hair turns white from the shock, his crew member looked at Cthulhu for too long and went crazy.
To be fair, while turning white from the shock is something that's overstated, what actually does have a medical reasoning is an adrenaline overdose if your body does that, and you just lose hair. Like, not a little hair, not going bald. I mean, eyebrows, hair on your arms, back, hair, everywhere gone. Facial hair gone, head gone. You could actually literally kill off the follicles entirely with that kind of shock. It doesn't happen often, but it is actually a type of shock that would happen. The bleaching is more just stress related, and it just kills off the cells slower, but it's different. Both are technically possible, but the all white is not usually what happens. If anything, it usually just kills off everything if it's that extreme of a reaction.
And that's where the story ends. Relay evidently sunk back under the sea since the island is gone, and Francis wraps up the story by contemplating how now that he knows so much about Cthulhu, it seems likely that his evil death cult is probably going to be gunning for him any day now. Oh no! How will he be able to function in polite society if he's cripplingly paranoid that every not white person he runs into might be trying to... I'm just kidding, it's 1920s rural America, no one will notice.
Yeah. Yeah, they're right. That is 1920s, man. It's a good thing we fixed all those problems, and there's nowhere left like that. Let's just say I have family who live outside of Detroit in Michigan. Not up in the UP, but they live in the MIT. If you know anything about Michigan and what I just said, you realize it's basically deep southern Mississippi. Not the places that are inhabited, but the places where someone would unironically think Deliverance is a nice slice of life story. Yeah. Cool Air?
Cool Air was written...
Wait, it's actually just called Cool Air. Modern Science Medicine, NYC, non-white people, but Spanish this time. Haven't we gotten around to just saying Spanish people are white again, or have we not done that? Honestly, it changes with everyone. I don't give a damn at this point. It's just annoying to figure out.
Cool Air was written while Hippopotamus Lovecraft was living in New York City, and consequently takes place in a crowded apartment building full of immigrants, every element of which the narrator hates. Even worse, one night something gross starts leaking through his ceiling, and the landlady explains a reclusive and mysterious doctor, homebound due to a lasting illness, lives in the apartment above him and must have spilled one of his chemicals. The knowledge that his upstairs neighbor is a doctor becomes relevant when our narrator randomly has a heart attack one day and scoots upstairs for some pro bono medical attention.
Seriously? Like, You're just going to bug the recluse who spills things thinking, this person's good at medicine. You know what? He's actually dumb enough and doesn't understand it to think that actually might be a good idea. I'm just sitting here going like, if the doctor is so, let's say go lackadaisical on this one, that he's going to spill things in quantities that they seep through the floor, I would not trust that man. Bit my tongue. That sounds like a quack. And he actually, in Lovecraft's life, decided, this is the person I'm going to trust when I'm not feeling good. Oh my god, he's an idiot. I mean, we already knew that, but a lot of it is just he's an idiot that happens to write at least passably well and just... Also, really? You live in New York and a random stain coming through the floor is the biggest problem you have? Dude, at that point, the rats should be trying to ask you for rent.
He finds that his neighbor, Dr. Munoz, is a very tidy and well-groomed dude, who our narrator judges as being of superior blood and breeding, but he keeps his apartment really cold for some reason and also comes across as inexplicably creepy, talking the whole time he's treating our narrator, but seemingly never pausing for breath. Place your bets now, folks. Anyway, Munoz tells the narrator...
Oh, so this is actually the story that happened, not actually what happened in Lovecraft. Okay. Honestly, it's really... Oh, cold air is the end of the story, and it's really cold in here. Let's see. Don't worry, Death and I are old enemies.
Our narrator, but seemingly never pausing for breath. Place your bet.
Vampire, alien, zombie, incomprehensible monster. You know, already this is probably nicer than anything. Why is he afraid of cold air, though?
Now, folks. Anyway, Munoz tells the narrator not to be too down about it.
Don't worry, I'm living proof of the wonders of modern medicine. Ha ha ha, yes.
His poor health, since modern science is incredible and can sustain a human body almost indefinitely.
This is the 1920s. I'm pretty sure they invented, I think this, yeah, they had anesthetics so you could actually not feel pain at this point. I think that came around the, what was it? I think it was after the Civil War. So it was probably newer by comparison to now, but yeah, no, 1920s medicine was mostly, people will actually put cocaine as an ingredient in things. Unironically. See? Look at this guy. He's happy. It must work. I'm not even joking. That was actually a thing for quite a long time after this point, too. It is really a thing. It's why original Coke technically is a Schedule 1 substance. If anyone has an original bit of it, it was medicine. With exactly what you think in it. Yeah.
He himself has had a complex bouquet of medical issues for the past 18 years, which is why he keeps his apartment so cold and rarely leaves. Fun fact, this story was written only a few years after air conditioning began to become a widespread phenomenon in major US cities, which is probably why Munoz takes the time to explain how exactly his cooling system works and also why Hates Progress Lovecraft is so scared of it. Anyway, the narrator
Hates Progress Lovecraft. Are they just going to give him stupid names every time? Now, you know what? I really hope they do. Oh yes, air conditioning is so terrifying, you know? Wow, considering Lovecraft probably lived long enough for it to become standard in most houses, he probably had a heart attack from that at some point. I'm hoping.
likes having such interesting company and routinely returns for visits and conversation, though he does notice that the doctor's health continues to deteriorate, and he does increasingly frantic modifications to the AC in order to compensate. He winds up looking so creepy that he gives a hardened war veteran a seizure just by looking at him. Basically, homeboy's face is jacked. Then one warm night mid-October, the air conditioner breaks, and the doctor freaks out and locks himself in the bathroom while he sends the narrator out to bring him as much ice as he can manage, as well as arrange for repairs to the air pump. The narrator subcontracts a dude to keep the ice coming while he runs off to find repair people, but when he returns to the house, it's in total chaos. Apparently, the ice guy got curious and looked into the bathroom, then ran screaming from the building. Upon investigation, a trail of God knows what leads from the bathtub to the writing desk and then dead ends in—
God damn. World's alivest doctor. And is that a head? That's the arm, the ribs. I'm going to go all out of here and overly sarcastic productions when it comes to art. They're doing a really good job. I actually love this style. Just really cool pictures. They set the scene well, and they're just giving color exactly to where they need it. A little to the hair to let you notice the main character because he stands out more from everyone else who doesn't have any other color, just black and white. And even here, where it's just like the bit of green and it's the raw, and you can see where he's going for the doorknob and sitting there, and the handprints everywhere. They're just like vague, but you can still see them. This is a really crazy level of detail with very little put into it. It's mostly sketching, but only where they need it. Really cool. And you can even see a bit of the skull in there, too. Oh, that's disgusting.
In a pile of something horrible on the couch. It's so horrible, the narrator doesn't even want to describe it, attempting to preserve the horror of the unknown, even though at this point—
Because if you tell, it does become scary.
Anyway, he wrote out a last confession about how he's been dead for 18 years and staved off decay through the cold and a lot of chemicals, but now thanks to the failure of modern technology, death has finally come for him.
I'm gonna be honest though, it's just a zombie, not an incomprehensible monster. Turns out dead all along is an older twist than it looks. Yeah. Also, the entire idea of modern technology kept me alive after I died. Frankly, that actually sounds like it was really good medicine.
Yay!
This one I've heard about. Color Out of Space. Phobia: space aliens, non-visible light. Yeah, technically radio waves, microwaves, cell phone rays, Wi-Fi. Technically the ones that actually do harm you, gamma, anything that's radioactive. Oh God, if he lived long enough to see a nuclear bomb drop, he would have actually probably felt vindicated and then terrified. Granted, being afraid of nukes is not the craziest thing out there. But I'm sure he would have probably written a really stupid story, and I probably would have been very racist. And disappointing because of that, yeah.
At this point, most of us learn the basics of the electromagnetic spectrum somewhere in middle school. You got that little zone of visible light, and there's a huge amount of radiation our eyes can't perceive, from gamma rays up through radio waves. Since we can only see such a thin slice of the spectrum, our concept of color is very limited compared to the full spectrum of light, but it's kind of what we're stuck with. But if you...
For example, there are actually creatures that have a better spectrum. I'm pretty sure one of them are... It's a type of shrimp. I cannot remember the name, and it's actually bugging me. But they actually have incredibly sensitive eyes that can see a lot of different additional colors. Also, there's other animals. Dogs can't see certain ranges, but they can see deeper ones. Not by a lot, so we actually might have a bigger range of them, but theirs goes on a slower end. But yeah, there's a lot of animals that do have overlapping, but also different expanded ranges. So yeah, it's entirely possible to see different things. What we have is just what we have. May or may not also play a part in color issues with vision, but I don't know that. I think that's more just perception, not actually seeing different range.
You told Lovecraft about the wide spectrum of light humans can't see, he'd get a funny look on his face, say something like, "You mean there exist colors that man has never seen? What might they be capable of?" And go write the color out of space. A story about a color of demonstrably visible light that is nonetheless nowhere on the visible spectrum.
You know, I just realized he's an entire description of the old phrase, "A little knowledge is a terrible thing." And that's also why the rest of the phrase is so drink deep. I'm butchering it, but that's basically the beginning and end of the phrase where people only remember the first half. But dear God, Lovecraft is actually an example of, I know just enough to be completely, utterly wrong and miss anything correct whatsoever, to the point where knowing nothing might have actually been more accurate. Oh my God, this is really hard to watch because I just want to go and punch him, and I know he's dead, so I can't, but... You know, I was joking earlier about annual pissing on Lovecraft's grave competition, but at this point, I think I might be looking into that by the end. That sounds like something that I might want to partake in, just to say, fuck you.
This is what happens when you don't have the constitution for math. Anyway, the narrator of the Color Out of Space is a surveyor examining an area in the middle of nowhere, Massachusetts, because they're planning on diverting a reservoir there. During his meanderings, he comes to an area referred to as a blasted heath. It almost looks like it was burned, but nothing ever grew back. The trees around the edges are sick and rotting, the plants are all growing weird, there's an inexplicably creepy well in the middle, and the narrator wisely decides to head back to town and prompt some NPCs to fill him in on the regional lore. Conveniently, the area has a local old crazy...
Ami Pierce? Oh, that's actually the name. Local fogey. Old person. I'll tell you, but you'll wish I hadn't.
Person. Always a goldmine of information in a Lovecraft story. This one named Ami Pierce, who's more than happy to regale him with colorful tales of horror. So the story begins with a meteorite
Narum Gardner. Idyllic family. Oh, and there's the well and the bit of the damage. Yeah, you can see exactly where the previous art comes up with it. Also, they're in Massachusetts. They're not idyllic. Trust me. I might be a little biased. But there's places there that are very much still, oh, people live here? Inducing.
Crash landing by the well in the otherwise sedate and charming forest estate of one Nahum.
Also, if a meteorite actually crashed right there and it was that size, they would be very dead right now. And probably a good bit of Massachusetts.
Gardner, a friendly farmer with an idyllically charming family. Some folks from the nearby Miskatonic University.
Smaller than I expected. It shrunk. Is that normal?
Swing by to examine the meteorite and are surprised at its small size. Nahum says it's shrunk since it landed, and also it glows in the dark and hasn't cooled down since the impact. The Miskatonic folks attempt to break off some samples, but find the meteorite is soft. We'll
run some tests on this bad boy. Oh my God, it glows at night. Sorry, there are actually things that are minerals that glow like that, and all of them you don't touch. Marie Curie was around at this point, I'm pretty sure. They should have known, hey, if it glows, don't touch it. Radiation was known. I'm pretty sure. I probably should Google when Marie Curie was actually a thing. Or was she not very well known at the time? I don't know yet.
Like plastic and gouges rather than being chipped. They take it away for tests, then come back for more because the material is reacting very strangely.
Need another sample? Apparently our supplies are running low.
Everything they do to it and also vanished completely overnight. As they carve out another chunk, they hit a little bubble in the rock. It's a small embedded glob with a mysterious color unlike any seen on Earth, and when they hit it with a hammer, it pops and disappears. The next day, they come back for more meteor but find it's...
So the entire thing isn't just colors you can't see, it's a color you haven't seen yet. And again, he fundamentally doesn't understand it, and it comes across in the writing. The point of the colors you can't see are colors that you are not able to physically see. Not that you just haven't seen it. I am starting to believe that Lovecraft was so stupid, I'm feeling better about my intelligence by comparison. I shouldn't. I'm an idiot. And this is making me just want to smack my head into something.
Completely vanished. A storm blew in overnight and struck the rock with lightning over half a dozen times, and apparently that made it stop existing. Nahum is of course an instant celebrity on account of the magic rock, and as a bonus, all his crops are growing in really big and glossy. But when the time comes to harvest them, Nahum finds they're all completely inedible. They've got a nasty aftertaste, unlike any seen on Earth, and they have to scrap the whole crop. The animals around the farm also start growing weird. Nahum's family is on edge, and everyone's basically avoiding the farm with the quiet understanding that whatever the meteor did to it wasn't good. All the trees
Ironically, though, if you had a meteorite that big that was glowing at night, it's usually radioactive, and this is actually unintentionally a very close idea of what would happen. If anything, it's actually downplayed. Everyone would have died by now. Who touched that rock? Yeah, I'm thinking about cesium, which does glow at night. If you look on the Kyle Hunt channel, or his Kyle Hill, that's it. He has an entire thing about radiation, and some of it was radiation from a capsule used for, I think, X-rays. It was left behind and abandoned, and a family found it, broke it open, and found some glowing dust. They touched it because it glowed at night, and everybody mostly died or got horribly, horribly maimed because radiation, and very strong radiation. So this is well before they would have known about that. But also not the craziest part. Like, things getting poisoned by radiation? Yeah, that's actually not wrong. This is not even the worst interpretation of it out there. It's still more effective at telling people how to avoid radiation than duck and cover. It's not a very high bar. It's wrong, just not for the reasons they should be.
Unlike any scene, and they seem to move on their own without any wind. The Gardner family basically holes up in the farm and has a collective silent nervous breakdown. Nobody's even surprised when Mrs. Gardner goes crazy and gets locked in the attic, and also starts glowing in the dark. Just move away! All the plants in the area start turning...
They didn't? I'm telling you, the well's gone bad.
Gray and disintegrating, and though Pierce warns the Gardners that the well water started tasting suspicious, they keep drinking it anyway. Then one of the kids goes crazy and starts screaming about colors in the well, unlike any, and gets locked in the attic too. Then the crazy kid dies somehow, and the youngest kid vanishes when going out to get well water one night. After 2 weeks of radio silence, Pierce finally works up the nerve to see...
Radio silence. We're talking about radiation without realizing it. Yeah, just... Radiation you can see, and it poisons people. I hate that technically this is scientifically... completely wrong, but also there are things close enough to real that he didn't know about but accidentally got close to.
How Nahum's doing and finds him ill and delirious and very much alone. Pierce goes to check in on the wife and finds something indescribably horrifying curled up in the corner, leaking mysterious colors unlike any seen on Earth, and writes her off as pretty thoroughly dead. When he heads downstairs, he hears some pretty disgusting noises plus a sploosh from the well outside. He also notices the house glows in the dark now and finds a very disintegrating Nahum has dragged himself...
I have some exposition for you! You know what? That's actually more terrifying than going braids. Yeah, no, not exposition! Terrifying.
To the base of the stairs for some last-minute exposition. He explains that mysterious color, etc., is alive and living in the well, and is sucking the life out of everything around it. It came out of the meteor, those weird color globs were probably seeds, and they've been feeding on the family and their farm as they grew. Anyway, Nahum dies, and Pierce gets the heck out of there to report the deaths. He returns with some investigators, they investigate the well, and find a whole lot of skeletons, including the 2 missing children, plus some weird spongy junk at the bottom, unlike any seen on... And then everything starts freaking out. The horse...
She's not even completing this sentence at this point. They're literally just like, a color you haven't seen... Oh, God, I respect the mythos, but I'm having a hard time taking this seriously. It's just getting more and more painful.
Horses freak out, the trees freak out, everything starts glowing, and
why are they still there?
They decide to vacate the area before anything else happens. As they exit the glow radius, they see a lot of mysterious colors, unlike erupting out of the well, and then the entire area lights up and the light blasts into space, leaving nothing but the blasted heat. But Pierce reveals one final scrap of horror. As the light left, he saw one weaker blob of light try and fail to escape the well before falling back in. It's still down there, which is why he's so spooked, and also so glad the area will soon be entirely underwater. Narrator guy, thoroughly creeped out, decides to never drink the water from this reservoir,
and then they build a dam over it, so it becomes a giant pile of water. It's infected. Granted, if you dissolve cesium in a dam, it would actually have a very similar effect. That said, That's not what they were talking about.
And also briefly contemplates if Pierce is still being affected by the horrible color and whether that would explain why he's never even left the area.
And this is where I'm going to have to cut this one, because right now, my tolerance for the Lovecraft bullshit is at its limit. I can deal with the stories. They're silly, they're kind of stupid, but they're also just, like, creepy enough that it's like, horror, things you don't know, unknown, yeah. But because they're not just doing it in its own in a vacuum, they're showing, here's what he was thinking, and getting into his mind, his life, it's like, yeah, here's the bullshit behind the horror. Horror. I just... The only reason I even got this far is because, honestly, Overly Sarcastic Productions entirely, I know, crazy to say this, sarcastic delivery is the only reason I came through the bullshit that is Lovecraft himself. Again, I don't respect that man. I've heard he got better at the end, but I don't know. I haven't brought myself to find out, because it's one of those things, I'm just going to be disappointed with whatever I find out. It's just going to make it worse. Basically, I'll have to come back. I'm going to finish this. I'm looking forward to it. But also, I know there's going to be a good bit of me going like, can I punch this man in the face? Can someone just send me a blow-up doll with his face on it that's weighted on the ground so I just like go to town punching it? Probably not the right way to put that, but you know what I mean. I don't. Yep. Basically, I'm liking this. I don't really know where to get into for Overly Sarcastic Productions other than to finish this video and then see what comes up next. They've got a lot. There is so many different things I can jump into after this, and I don't know where to start. So if anyone has any recommendations what to look at next after I finish this pile of hates progress Lovecraft, if anyone knows where to finish or go on from there, let me know, because I kind of just want to see what they do with things that aren't going to make me want to strangle an already dead moron. It'd be nice. Otherwise, if you like this, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and hit that link below to the original video, because why wouldn't you do it? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.